Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, it's just me and Pete. What's up, Pete?
Hello there, Keeler. Happy New
Hello,
Year.
hello.
I said it first this time.
Yeah, we're still going to keep saying Happy New Year for at least all of January. And today we're going to
Q1.
hop on and yeah, Q1, all of Q1. Happy New Year. Today we're going to jump in and do just kind of a quick episode because there's a question Pete's been getting a bunch recently. And we thought we'd just jump on and make a podcast about it because I think we can answer it pretty succinctly and it could be useful for a lot of you out there dealing with the similar situations. You want to describe the scenarios you've been asked about recently, Pete?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of a reputation internally within the community for having taken a staff member and elevated them to ownership status and being someone who supposedly knows what it takes to handle the optics of that, both in the eyes of the team and in the training community, the clients. And so twice during today's coaching calls, I was asked the question of, how do you get a either newly elevated or a new coach to the team to be perceived as an equal or a capable staff member in the eyes of clients? And this is an interesting one to me because we take interns out of our program and elevate them to employee status, occasionally straight out of the internship. And it's a weird one in the eyes of clients when they're like, how are you going to look me in the eye and say that that person who I know was an intern last week is now ready to assess me or write a program for me just because you decided to cut them a paycheck this week and you didn't last week? And so it's a good question.
It's a big one. Yeah, I think it's an important one. And I think even listeners who don't have internships experience this all the time. When you just bring on a new trainer, right? Just bringing on a new person onto your team and trying to orient them to your whole community and convince your clients that this is someone you want them to know and like and trust and work with in the same way that they're working with you and the rest of your team. And this also happens as you elevate people from either internships to non-internships employees or part-time to full-time. I think in all of those transitions, there's a moment where you're asking your clients to really believe in you and trust you that you're elevating someone for a lot of good reasons. So yeah, Pete, talk through a little bit about how do you navigate those transitions in terms of client communication?
So the first piece of advice I'd give to the average gym owner is to separate themselves from the idea that they need to be the best coach on staff or they need to be somehow perceived as the best coach on staff. And so if you can aspire to be seen as lesser than, as much as it hurts your ego, it helps your bottom line in the long run because being the second best coach on staff as an owner makes your operation a lot more scalable. Yeah. Because you just don't need to be the bottleneck, and you're the one who in theory has the wherewithal to build the business, to drive the leads, to do the things that need to happen outside the training floor. And so having coaches who are admittedly better than you is a good thing, it's not a knock against your skill set.
I also want to flag for everyone that Pete and I have never had that experience because we're not trainers. That maybe this is one where I can say that's maybe easier said than done to let go of the ego in this way because I've never had to. I've never considered myself the best trainer and then had to let go of that title.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one. I'm in this wonderful position where I have to position staff members as, and I've got my air quotes up, as good or better than Eric Cressy. And I'm doing that all the time because since the beginning, there have been the calls. And sure, some people will be like, hey, Coach Pete, so when I come in, are you going to evaluate me? And I'll just say, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I could make it up, but I'd be doing just that, making it up. But then more often than not, the question is, so will Eric be assessing me? And in my mind, it's kind of like, well, he's in Florida, we're in Massachusetts, so no, logistically that won't be feasible. But we've got a number of coaches across two facilities who are really, really good. And in certain ways and in certain capacities, better than Eric. There are tools in their toolboxes that either he doesn't care to have, or hasn't developed to the degree that they have, just like there are certain assessment skills and programming things that he has that members on our team may never have. But he's willing to admit that he's got team members who would do a better job in, say, a personal training setting than he might ever do. And it's really easy for me to convey that message because I have the benefit of saying, hey, look, I've been here since the beginning. This is a pretty informed opinion. When I tell you John O'Neill is one of the best strength coaches I've ever seen, you're going to need to trust me, because I've watched Eric coach thousands of reps over thousands of hours over thousands of days of training sessions, and I know John can hang with him. So you got to take my word for it here. And that play works because I have the credibility of having been there since the day we opened doors.
Yeah.
However, it's still a common problem. I see plenty of coaches who they might not want to admit that they see themselves as the end all be all for best coach on staff, but their actions and behaviors show me that they micromanage it to a fault, and it's compromising their ability to grow the business.
Yep.
Now, jumping out of that mindset shift that I suggest, I have two recommendations that I make pretty consistently on this front. The first is, don't just talk about it, be about it. If you want to position a new staff member as a credible staff member, I'd say go so far as to let your clients see that staff member evaluate you, write your programs. In most of the gyms we work with, these gym owners are using their own services. They're in the weight room training, sometimes on their social media. They're documenting what they're doing, their process. And if we hired someone new, so let's say I think Cole is our most recent hire up here in CSP, Massachusetts. If a client said, "Hey, John, I saw your deadlifting today. What are you doing for your program?" He said, Cole writes all my programs now. And Cole's got me doing this on Mondays. Cole's got me doing this on my upper body days. It's done right then and there. The clients are like, well, God, if John's following programs that this guy's writing, that's enough. I'm in. Count me in. Yep. And it gets you over that hurdle pretty quickly. So if you can figure out a way to tell that story that the team trusts this person to handle their own fitness instruction, why can't you, the user? That can solve the problem. My second piece of advice is to make that person the expert in the eyes of the community even further, in the sense that most of us are creating some form of instructional content on social media these days. A lot of people explaining, maybe it's how to do an exercise, maybe it's why we introduced an exercise and why it makes sense for the client, talking about things like programming, talking about what you can expect to see when you come in the weight room. And you have an opportunity to make the newest, greenest coach on the team the face of that. And you can make them the voice of it as well. They could be the person doing the demos. They could be the person explaining the demos. But it's a really quick and easy fix for positioning that staff member in the eyes of the general public as an expert in this domain. And it's kind of been our playbook over the years, and it seems to work as we try and earn the trust of the client.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. I think it's a great list. It's so funny. When we brought up this topic, I was going to share 3 things, and 2 of our 3 things overlap.
Awesome. Well, then I can't wait to hear number 3.
We both think about this pretty much the same way. So I'll share mine, and mine are, like I said, two are pretty much the same. I might say them a little differently, but they're the same idea. My first one, which is the one that didn't overlap, which is, it's important when you introduce a new trainer to your community that you don't just introduce their professional self, but you introduce their whole self, that you share something personal about them. Let them know the person. You want to humanize them. Like, where are they from? What hobbies do they have? What do they like to eat? Do they have any pets? Right? Those kind of details that humanize a person really builds know, like, and trust so much faster than just like, here's a new coach and they have these certs. It's like, no one cares. It doesn't tell me anything about the person. So I think introducing a person and sharing, personal tidbits about them really helps break down those walls. So that's what I would add. But then the second one, which you nailed already, which is one way to position a new person as really being valuable on a team, is everyone needs to see that person being praised publicly by existing team members, which is more or less what you said, right? Show them that, like, I have a program designed by Cole, right? Or, wow, I just watched this program that Pete just did as the new guy. And let me just tell you, Pete is on fire when it comes to X, Y, and Z. And shouting across the room, that was amazing work over there. Like, keep it up, Cole, right? Like, publicly praising the new guy on behalf of the whole team, like, shows everyone. It demonstrates loud and clear everyone believes in and is rooting for and is impressed by the new person. Right. And It doesn't have to be just theater. Like, hopefully you believe that, right? You shouldn't be making this up. It should be genuine recognition and praise for things you appreciate about the new person. And your clients see that. and they see how much you believe in them. And then, I think the last one was exactly what you said, which is allow them to shine for something they're uniquely good at. And so whether it's, if there's some thing that they're really great at, if they're a really great kind of pitching coach and they have really great, know the biomechanics of pitching really well, cool. Have them make some social media for that, do a workshop for that, really position them for something that they can crush on day one. And that's a great way to like just lift them up for something that they're already really confident in. So yeah, our list was pretty much identical.
Yeah, Eric's particularly good at that piece where he'll defer to the knowledge of another staff member in a moment where he's saying, you know what, I'm going to defer to this team member. And I know he already knows the answer. He's going to say the exact same thing, but he'll position them as an expert in a certain realm. So he might say, I didn't realize that you were so fresh off of an ACL repair. You know what, I'm going to defer to this staff member because they handle the bulk of the programming for that athletic population here. And they just have so many more reps than I do in this capacity. And that might not be entirely true, that he is ill-equipped to take care of that person at the same level.
Of course.
But what is 100% true is that the person he is bringing to the forefront to handle it is equipped in the capacity that he has positioned them to. So I'm not saying falsely inflate the skill set and capabilities of the person that you are promoting in the eyes of the client.
Or deflate yours, right? Like we're not trying to make you smaller to make someone else bigger, right? But the point is you got to make space for them to be big too.
Exactly. And so to build off of your point that we did not overlap on, we have a tradition on our CSP Massachusetts Instagram account where we do a seasonal Meet the Interns post. And it is always far and away the highest engagement we get. The most comments, the most likes, the most discussion on the training floor. And it's equal parts humor and actually meet the intern. And it's great. We make them pose for silly pictures. Typically this will be like we stage like our old 10, 11, 12-year-old youth baseball photos. Like we'll hold a stupid little bat over their shoulder. It's like they're standing for a baseball card. And then it'll say, meet the intern. This is Michael. This is his hometown. This is where he went to college. This is his favorite movie. This is one fun fact you would never believe about him. And the interns enjoy the exercise as we gather the information, share it with each other. And the community basically loves the banter that comes with it. And so it's right in line with what you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's a perfect example of what it looks like. It's just like, introduce them, right? Make it personal. And people love it. I mean, that'll be like some of your most engaging content is the stuff that is like introducing a new friendly face in a fun, engaging way. Like that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, that part might be the most underappreciated piece. Stop taking yourself so damn seriously. Have some fun with this because the clients, a lot of people are already intimidated by the weight room as it is. And this is low-hanging fruit, being fun and approachable, having a personality online.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about this is, as a new employee, your inclination going into a new business is I have to be impressive. I have to show the most impressive part of myself and brag and make sure everyone understands how smart I am and how all and so you need to give a new employee permission to put that stuff on the back burner, right? Like we're going to tell them over time that you're a great coach, but let them know first that you're a fun person that they want to spend time with. And you have to let a new employee feel comfortable putting that stuff on the back burner. Don't worry about being impressive. Just be yourself, right? And that's sometimes a radical thing to ask someone to do.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah. Well,
so did we just do it in under 15 minutes? We had one of our actual quick hitters.
We did it in 14 minutes. Well, let me quickly wrap up before I make it over 15 minutes. Great conversation, Pete. This was an awesome one. Listeners, if you enjoyed this, awesome. Give us 5 stars wherever you listen. Email us, michael@businessofunicorns.com, pete@businessofunicorns.com. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Ask us a question. We really will cover it on this podcast. Great conversation, Pete. Thanks so much. I'll see you on the next one.
Talk soon, Michael.